Welcome to the Greenlight Investor for the week ending June 5th, 2015. The goal of the Greenlight Investor is to provide a resource to make managing your 401k both a simple and easy process. We do this by using red, green, and yellow cells to help you decide when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. This presentation is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as personal investment advice. The examples I'll show are just that. They're examples of how you can use this worksheet to help make investment choices within your 401k. Please refer to your own investment policy as you make your investment choices to make sure they're appropriate for your investment time frame, as well as your acceptance for taking on investment risk in financial markets. With that said, let's go ahead and go right into our worksheet. On the left side, you'll see that we have the different investment choices to you that are available within your 401k. We show the fund number, the symbol, the fund name, and a description of the fund. In the center columns, we'll show the performance that we update each week, and we'll show the closing price, the month-to-date return, the quarter-to-date return, and the year-to-date return. This is so you can keep track of how your funds are doing relative to other funds in the category, as well as funds in other categories. And finally, on the right side of the worksheet, we have a unique area, and it's called our current weekly trends. It's a place where we track the relative strength of each of the funds to show which funds are the strongest and which ones are the weakest. Each week we'll update column W, and when you see red cells in that, it's generally a week period for that fund in the market, and we'll look at a week over week numerical value. When that number is decreasing, that means that the fund is continuing to weaken. When you see the green cells, that means the fund is generally positive or relatively strong. And when you see the numerical values increasing with green cells, that means that that fund is generally showing strong relative strength or is performing better than the other funds. As you go down, we'll see that the other column that's extremely important to look at when making choices is the long-term trend column. That's column U. When you see a green cell, that shows that the long-term trend is generally bullish, and that's a good reason to be in those funds when you're seeing the green lights. When you see a long-term bearish or a red cell in column U to the left of column V, then that means that that fund is generally trending lower, and it may warrant moving capital that you have in that fund to a money market or into another fund that's got a green light and is performing a little bit better. By following this simple process, you can keep your capital in the strongest funds and stay away from some of the weaker funds. As you go down this, you'll see that the fixed income funds are generally red, and all of the columns on the week over week trend scores are red. So that's an area that's really been performing weakly. As we scroll down, we're seeing the U.S. growth and income funds are very mixed, showing a lot of red, green, and yellow cells, so they're generally a mixture of strength. And to the right side, we're showing generally red cells again, so this is a weak area of the market. Scrolling down on the right side, we're seeing more green than red, so this is generally strong, but not a lot of strength. In column U, we are still seeing that there are a lot of green cells in the long term, but the short term is showing a lot of red cells, which indicates that there's a market that's stalling out, or the short term strength of the market is fairly weak. This looks very similar as you go into the international funds. Short term, they're showing a lot of weakness. Long term, they're showing that the strength is still there, and it's a positive or bullish sign for the long-term investment choices. To the right side on the week over week trend score, you're still seeing a lot of green, so those are generally good funds to just sit through this weak period. And finally, we're seeing the sector funds at the bottom, and those are showing a mixture of red, green, and yellow cells, so you have to be somewhat selective. But you are seeing that there's generally on the week over week strength scores, you're seeing a lot of green cells here, and a lot of the numerical values are actually strengthening. So that's not too bad an area to be in right now. There's really pretty good strength down there. With all that said, let's see how we can use this worksheet to make your investment choices within your 401k. We try to keep this fairly simple and easy to do. So for this example, let me show you how our hypothetical portfolio can be reviewed each week. You'll simply click on View, go to Custom Views, and there's a pop-up, and you go to My Current Allocations. This will bring up the allocation view of this worksheet, and you'll show, the worksheet will show the current allocations you have. To see if there's any changes needed, you simply use the slider and bring the columns over so that you can see column U and column W. And what you'll look at is your current allocation, which is a 10% allocation to index funds. And we're seeing that it's showing a long-term bullish trend, as well as a green light on the week-over-week trend score. So with that said, there's nothing to do with this allocation right now. Our money market, we're showing that we have selected a target of 10%, and we're currently 10% invested in the money market. With this selection, it's always neutral because the money market's considered just a simple safe haven. It's a good place when you're seeing a lot of red. You can move additional capital as a holding period until the green cells start to appear, and then you can reallocate to the different categories as you start to see the green cells. As we scroll down, you'll see that our fixed income, we've elected to go to a 0% allocation a few weeks ago as we started to see a lot of red appear, and that was an early warning signal that fixed income was showing weakness relative to the other categories. We're also on the right side seeing quite a bit of red, so that's a confirmation that the weakness in the fixed income that's the type of market condition we're currently in. So it's a good time to stay away from that, or at least be aware that this is going to be a weak performing sector for a while. As we scroll down, we're seeing somewhat similar. We're seeing our U.S. growth and income funds. We're seeing a lot of red in the short term and very neutral for the long term, so that's a very neutral area to be in right now. Our allocation is showing that we have a 5% allocation, and we have a green light in the left side of column B and a green light to the right. So with that, again, there's really nothing we want to do unless we want to be a little bit preemptive and move out of there into a money market or another fund. But I'm comfortable with the green light showing to both sides of column B. So that said, we'll go ahead and leave that allocation as is. Our next category is the U.S. equities. We have a 30% allocation. We're seeing again the short-term column is showing quite a bit of red, so you wouldn't expect this to be performing well in the short run. The long term, we're seeing quite a bit more green, so these are still showing a relative amount of health in this category. To the right, you're seeing a little bit of mixture of red, so there is some weakness in some of the funds, but generally you're seeing a good portion of the green remaining. So as long as the green cells are to the right and the left of the funds that you're in, it's okay to stay in these. Here we have the 20% allocation. We are seeing the green light and the green light, so there's nothing to do. And to our 10% allocation, we are seeing the green light and the green light, so again, there's nothing to do. As we scroll down to our next category, we're seeing that we have international funds with a 30% allocation, and we've elected two funds to be in. One has a 20% allocation, and that currently has a green light and a green light. It is showing short-term and intermediate-term weakness, so it's something we'll watch for. It's a little bit of an early warning, but as long as the green lights are remaining in the long-term trends, we're okay to stay in those. And our 10% allocation, we're seeing the same thing. We're seeing a very similar situation with green showing to the left and the right of column B. The short-term strength is showing that it's bearish or has been weak. The intermediate and the long term are still showing that the uptrend is intact, although mild. And finally, we'll look at our sector category. We're showing that we have a 15% allocation to this. It's divided between three different funds. And as we look over here, we're seeing a green light and a green light. So that's fine to keep this allocation. Our 5% allocation to this fund is showing a yellow light and a green light. So again, there's nothing to do in this one. The yellow light is just showing a little bit of caution. but I'm very comfortable because I'm seeing the short-term and the intermediate-term strength in this fund. So I would just leave this as is. And finally, we're showing our 5% allocation has a green light and a green light, as well as a neutral and a green light. So that one seems like it's doing just fine. One other way to look at the funds are when you look at the week over week numerical values. When they're strengthening, that again is a little bit of a confidence builder, saying that the fund is getting a little bit of support or strength. With that said, that's all we have to do each week, to take a look at the funds that are available to you and see if there's any action that needs to be taken. Since this is a sizable portion of most people's investment portfolio, we've tried to make this a simple and easy process that takes less than 5 minutes per week to see if there's any allocations changes that need to be made. Generally, you'll see maybe 2 or 3 times a year there's a signal that will be given that may indicate that there's a better allocation mix for your portfolio. And that's it. That's what I've got for this week. I hope it's been helpful and gives you some ideas and resources for managing your 401k. If you'd like to find out more about how the Greenlight Investor can help you make sense of your 401k, simply send me an email or visit our website, and I'd be happy to get in contact with you and review ways that you can use this worksheet to help manage your 401k choices. Thank you for taking the time to go through this video. I hope you have a great week. Thank you.